let's dive in.
Okay.
Today, we're tackling a topic that's pretty heavy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Nuclear winter.
Right.
We're going to be looking at a bunch of research simulations and try to answer the question,
Okay.
could humanity survive a full-scale nuclear war?
That's the big one.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about,
Yeah,
what we're doing, where we're headed.
absolutely. It's like looking into the abyss a little bit.
It is.
But it's important, right,
Oh, absolutely.
to understand the potential consequences.
Yeah.
So we're not just going to be looking at explosions and mushroom clouds.
Right.
We're going deeper
All right.
into the science behind this thing called nuclear winter.
Yeah.
How would it affect the climate,
Exactly.
the ecosystem,
And everything in between.
everything? So
Yeah.
just imagine a world where these nuclear bombs go off.
Right.
They cause these massive fires.
Yeah.
And all this smoke and soot gets thrown up into the atmosphere.
Millions of tons of it.
Millions of tons. And it blocks out the sun.
Blocking the sunlight.
Yeah.
Leading to, well,
It's like
a drop in temperatures worldwide.
It's like a perpetual twilight.
Right. That's what some of the research is suggesting.
Yeah, the sources we're looking at.
Yeah.
They paint this picture.
It's bleak.
Bleak, yeah, where crops fail, the oceans become like a desert.
Barren.
Barren, yeah.
Silent.
And it's not just about the cold.
No, not just the cold. It's the lack of sunlight.
Yeah.
The plants need that to grow.
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis, exactly.
And if the plants can't grow,
Right.
the whole food chain collapses.
It's a domino effect.
It's a domino effect, both on land
And in the sea.
and in the sea.
Yeah.
We're talking about a global famine,
Potentially
Yeah.
on a scale we've never seen.
a scale we've never seen.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to even imagine
Yeah.
the simulations they suggest.
They suggest.
Even a small-scale nuclear war, I mean, a limited exchange could cause this global cooling
Yeah.
that could last for years.
Years, decades, maybe even longer.
Decades, wow.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
This soot, this smoke,
Uh-huh.
it's not like regular clouds.
Right?
It gets trapped up there
In the stratosphere?
in the stratosphere, and it just circulates,
Wow.
creating this like a shadow.
Like a global shadow.
Yeah, across the whole planet.
So even if you
It's-
even if you survive
Yeah,
the initial blast,
right.
you find some kind of shelter.
You're still facing
You're
it.
still facing this world
Yeah.
where there's no food, there's no water, there's no shelter.
It all becomes incredibly scarce.
It all becomes scarce.
Yeah.
And when things become scarce, well,
People start fighting over them.
yeah,
Competition,
competition,
conflict,
breakdowns in social order,
governments collapsing,
possible.
law and order just evaporating.
It's a scenario
Yeah.
we don't even want to think about.
But it's a scenario we have to think about.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what really struck me
What really struck me too.
in the research
Yeah.
is that the worst of it
Might not be immediate.
might not even be immediate.
Right.
It's the long term.
the long-term fallout.
Yeah, the fallout.
So radioactive particles,
Uh-huh.
they contaminate everything.
Soil, water,
Air.
air, and it's a threat
To human health for
Yeah.
generations.
for generations to come.
It's a long-lasting poison.
It's like this poison that keeps on giving,
Yeah.
I mean, increased rates of cancer,
Birth defects.
birth defects,
Genetic mutations.
weakening the human species
Centuries.
for centuries. And it's not just about
Right.
the direct effects on humans.
No, of course not.
It's the ecosystem.
The ecosystems,
Right.
the radioactive particles get into the plants, the animals,
Disrupting the food chain.
disrupting everything.
Yeah, potentially causing extinctions.
Species going extinct.
Yeah, so even if humans manage to survive
Right.
and rebuild,
They're living in
they're living in a different world.
a fundamentally altered world.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
the very building blocks of life are contaminated.
Contaminated.
It's heavy stuff.
It's heavy stuff.
And it leads to that big question.
The big one.
Could a nuclear war
Yeah.
trigger a mass extinction?
A mass extinction event.
Like what happened to the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Is that a real possibility?
Well, the science suggests
Uh-huh.
even a limited nuclear war could be devastating for global biodiversity.
Wow.
You combine that with climate change,
Right.
habitat destruction,
And the radiation.
the long-term effects of radiation.
Yeah.
It creates conditions that are, well,
It's hard to imagine anything surviving that.
it would be very difficult for many species.
So we're not just talking about losing a few species here and there.
No, not at all.
We're talking about entire ecosystems collapsing.
Collapsing.
And the ripple effect.
The ripple effects would be felt everywhere.
It's like what's a good analogy? It's like a Jenga tower.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. You pull out the wrong block.
You pull out the wrong block.
The whole thing comes crashing down.
The whole thing comes crashing down.
Exactly.
So even if humans make it through, we might end up in a world that's just
impoverished.
impoverished, yeah.
That's unrecognizable.
A world without the abundance and diversity of life that we
take for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bleak picture.
It is.
But life is resilient.
That's true.
I mean, it's bounced back from some pretty catastrophic events in the past.
It has.
So there's a glimmer of hope there, maybe?
There's always hope.
Yeah.
Life finds a way.
Even in the face of mass extinction,
even then,
new species could evolve.
New ecosystems.
New ecosystems. And life could find a way to thrive.
To adapt.
In this new world.
Yeah.
It might not be the same.
It won't be the same.
But it would be a testament to the power of life.
It would.
To keep going.
Absolutely.
And it reminds us that the choices we make today
have consequences.
Yeah, consequences that echo through time.
Through generations.
Generations.
Yeah.
It's a heavy responsibility.
It is.
But we can't ignore it.
We can.
We have to understand.
We have to understand
our long-term consequences of our actions.
Yeah.
And work to prevent
a
nuclear war.
A nuclear catastrophe.
Because that's the only way.
That's the only way.
To ensure that future generations
right.
inherit a world.
A world.
That's still full of life and wonder.
A world worth living in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Okay, so we've laid out
this
pretty terrifying scenario.
It's not pretty, no.
Not pretty at all. But the question remains, could humanity actually recover from something like this?
Could we bounce back from nuclear winter? It's a tough one.
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this devastation.
Right.
Where do you even begin?
It wouldn't be easy.
No.
But the sources we've looked at,
they do offer some, I guess, glimmers of hope.
Okay, so there are some pathways, to rebuilding.
But under
some pretty intense circumstances.
Intense is putting it mildly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these pathways.
Yeah.
What kind of survival strategies?
Well, one that comes up a lot is underground bunkers.
Bunkers, the classic.
You know those shelters designed to shield people from the blast?
Oh, from the fallout?
Yeah, the immediate effect.
It's a staple of those post-apocalyptic movies, right?
Right.
But how realistic is that?
I mean, could we actually build enough bunkers for everyone?
A significant portion of the population.
That's one of the big problems.
Okay.
Building these things on a large scale, it would take a lot of resources.
Resources that we might not have.
Exactly. And even then, it only helps a select few.
Right, and that brings up
it does.
The ethical questions.
Oh, absolutely.
Who gets to decide?
Who gets in? Who gets in?
Who stays out?
What happens to those left behind?
That's a recipe for conflict.
Yeah, for social breakdown.
Yeah.
And even if people survive in these bunkers,
they have to come out eventually.
They do.
And what kind of world
are they coming out into?
Exactly. A world that's been
scarred,
radically changed.
Yeah, resources are probably
incredibly scarce.
Scarce, yeah.
So bunkers, they buy you time.
Time.
But not a long-term solution.
Okay, so what else is there?
Well, another strategy is stockpiling.
Stockpiling, so
food, water, seeds, the essentials.
Yeah, to get you through those early years.
The initial years of recovery.
But how do you prevent?
That's the challenge.
Looting.
Looting, destruction.
Really chaos.
You'd need secure facilities.
Yeah.
A system for distributing those resources.
That could survive.
The breakdown of,
of society.
Of society, yeah.
And what about spoilage?
Oh, that's another big issue.
Food, medicine, it doesn't last forever.
No, it has a shelf life.
So preserving those things.
It would be really difficult.
Especially when infrastructure is
gone, yeah.
So stockpiling is important.
It's a start.
But it's just a start.
Yeah, eventually you have to.
You have to produce your own food.
Yeah.
Rebuild.
Rebuild. In a world that's
completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And that brings us to
maybe the toughest challenge.
What's that?
Growing food.
In a nuclear winter.
In a nuclear winter climate.
I mean, how is that even possible?
It would take a lot of innovation.
Okay.
A lot of experimentation.
With new farming techniques.
New farming techniques, yeah.
What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, the sources mention things like hydroponics.
Hydroponics, so that's
growing plants without soil.
Without soil, interesting.
And developing new crops.
Crops that can
withstand radiation and those extreme temperatures.
So we're talking about a completely new kind of agriculture.
Yeah, reinventing agriculture. It makes you realize
it does.
Just how vulnerable we are.
We are.
When it comes to food.
Yeah, we take it for granted.
We do.
That we can just go to the store and buy whatever we need.
But in this world.
In a post-nuclear world, every meal
would be a struggle.
Would be a testament to our ingenuity.
To our resilience.
Exactly.
So we've got bunkers, stockpiles.
Innovative farming.
Right. But are there any other...
Some sources also emphasize the importance of knowledge.
Knowledge,
skills.
Like what kind of skills?
Engineering, medicine.
Basic stuff.
Basic stuff. Agriculture.
The things you need...
To rebuild.
To rebuild a society.
And even the arts and humanities.
Oh, interesting. Why those?
Well, they're the building blocks of culture.
Of who we are.
Of who we are, yeah.
So it's not just about physical survival.
About cultural survival, too.
Preserving our stories.
Our traditions.
The things that make us human.
Yeah, and that brings us to another crucial point.
Social cohesion. Social cohesion, yeah.
In the face of this devastation, would we come together?
Or would we fall apart?
Would it be cooperation or conflict?
It's impossible to say.
It is.
I mean, we've seen both throughout history.
Incredible acts of kindness.
And terrible acts of cruelty.
Yeah, in times of crisis.
So the sources emphasize.
They do.
Building strong communities.
Communities, yeah.
Fostering empathy, cooperation.
Yeah.
Developing systems of governance.
That can adapt.
To these changing conditions.
To this new world.
To this new world, yeah.
So rebuilding after a nuclear winter.
It wouldn't just be about technology.
It would be about
compassion.
Passion, yeah.
Our ability to work together.
Towards a common goal.
Towards a common goal, exactly.
So back to that big question.
The big one.
Could we recover?
Could humanity recover from nuclear winter?
After exploring all this.
What's your take?
What's your verdict?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
The challenges are huge.
They are. The road to recovery would be long.
And difficult.
But I do believe...
You do?
I do. That human ingenuity, combined with that sense of community and a willingness to learn from the past, could offer us a glimmer of hope.
A glimmer of hope.
Even in the darkest of times.
So while the future is uncertain, we're not totally powerless.
We're not.
The choices we make today.
The values we prioritize.
The communities we build.
It all matters.
It determines our ability to face the challenges ahead.
It does.
Welcome back. We're in the final stretch now of our deep dive into nuclear winter.
Yeah.
We've covered the immediate destruction, potential strategies for rebuilding.
Right.
But there's this looming question.
Yeah, the long-term consequences.
Long-term consequences for our planet.
Yeah.
We talked about the fallout.
We have.
But it's worth really digging into what that means.
It's not just a one-time thing.
No.
These radioactive particles, they don't just disappear.
They linger.
They linger.
In the environment.
In the soil, the water, the air, for generations.
It's like this poison, right?
Yeah, poison that keeps on giving.
Giving and giving.
Affecting future generations.
Increased cancer rates, birth defects.
Genetic mutations.
Weakening humanity for centuries.
And it's not just humans.
Right, it's the whole ecosystem.
Whole ecosystem.
The plants, the animals.
The radiation gets into everything.
Disrupting the food chain.
Potentially leading to extinction.
So even if we rebuild, you're living in a world that's
fundamentally changed.
Changed, yeah, like the very essence of life.
Yeah, contaminated.
It's a scary thought.
It is.
And it brings us to that big question.
The mass extinction question.
Yeah, could nuclear war actually wipe out?
Like the dinosaurs.
Like the dinosaurs. Is that a real possibility?
Well, the science says even a limited nuclear war would be devastating for biodiversity.
Wow.
You've got climate change, habitat destruction.
The radiation.
All working together, creating conditions.
Where it's hard to see how anything survives.
It would be very difficult.
And we're not talking about a few species here and there.
No.
We're talking about entire ecosystems collapsing.
The ripple effects would be massive.
It's like, I keep thinking of this analogy.
Oh, yeah.
The Jenga tower.
The Jenga tower, right?
You pull out the wrong block.
The whole thing.
The whole thing comes crashing down.
Exactly.
And that's what it feels like we're talking about.
It's interconnected.
Everything is connected.
Yeah.
So we survive, but we're living in this world.
A world that's been...
impoverished.
Impoverished, yeah.
Without the diversity of life.
The abundance...
that we're used to.
That we take for granted.
It's a bleak picture.
It is.
But I have to ask,
Yeah.
is there any hope?
Life is incredibly resilient.
We've said that?
It's bounced back before.
From catastrophe.
Some catastrophes, yeah.
So could it happen again?
It's possible.
Even after a mass extinction?
Even then, new species could evolve.
New ecosystems?
Life finds a way.
A new world?
A different world.
Not the same, but
still a testament to the power of life.
to its resilience.
To keep going.
It's a powerful thought.
It is.
And it reminds us
that our choices matter.
our choices have consequences.
Long-term consequences.
That echo through time.
For generations to come.
We have to be mindful of that.
Absolutely.
You have to understand
the impact of our actions.
the impact of our actions, yeah.
And work towards a better future.
A future without nuclear war.
A future where life can thrive.
That's what we should be striving for.
I agree.
Well, this has been a heavy journey.
It has.
Exploring nuclear winter.
A lot to think about.
But it's important to understand
the fragility of our world.
The fragility of our world and the need
for peace.
For a sustainable future.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We hope it's given you some food for thought.
Some things to consider.
About the choices we make.
And the future we want to create.
Because ultimately, the future is in our hands.
It is.